We have 11 residential programs. Almost all of them are 1 year wraparound. We'll talk more about that in a bit. I'm joined by Martha Correa, who's the Assistant Director of the Professional Graduate Program Office. Is that right? We just changed the name, so I'm gonna make sure I get it right.
Yes.
So I've been doing this for, this is going on my 17th year. So, and Martha was doing it even before I got here. So I know she only looks like she's 17, so it's pretty remarkable when you think about it. But, we want to spend this hour with you. We're going to have presentations, both overview on the programs and specific about the application. If while we're going and doing stuff, you have a burning question, just put it in the chat and one of us will try to kind of monitor it. And if it's relevant, we'll bring it up or we'll come back to it later on. The nice thing about me having been here for a while, but even beyond that, is that we're one of the few schools of communications that has a associate dean just dedicated to our master's programs, and that would be me. Most of the time they have different student affairs or other things like that, but I in my office is totally just in charge of our professional master's programs. And just so you know, in background in terms of communication schools, there's about 120 that are accredited by the Accrediting Council for Educators in Journalism and Mass Communication. But only of those 110, 120, only less than a dozen actually have their grad programs accredited. And we are one of those. So we're pretty proud of that. We also probably have the most programs, and we'll talk about that because we have kind of very niche programs, and then we have some bigger programs. And we'll explain all that as we go along. Okay, let's go. We're going to start this. So that's a picture of Newhouse 3, and looks just like that today, except there's some white stuff on the lawn. All right. I think we had our one snow of the year that just came about right now. So usually it's around 70 and balmy throughout the year. Yeah. So the one thing you get to talk about when you're at Syracuse is the weather. And so I'm sure I'll be talking plenty about that, but there you go. I got my name right and Martha's name right. And that's a picture, although it's an older picture because the dome over in the upper right-hand corner has just been replaced with a permanent roof. And unfortunately, no one's been in it because no one's allowed in it yet, except for the players. So you can see it on TV, but and we'll talk also about COVID. I was mentioning that we have these 1 year wraparound programs. So almost all the programs do start in the summer with a boot camp, a 6-week boot camp. And one of the reasons for the boot camp is as the leveling force. Like some of you might have a communications background. Most of you probably have an arts and science background, which is what we're looking for, political science major, history, English, whatever. So the boot camp and all the programs is designed for the 6 weeks. Is kind of everyone comes in with different skill sets. By the end of boot camp, everyone is pretty much on the same page. And that way we can move into the semesters. The other nice thing about the boot camp is that you get all of Newhouse to yourselves because there's no undergraduates around. And it makes it very nice. Now, we can talk a little bit more about boot camp as we go on. But I brought it up because we had boot camp this year, but it was virtual. And that was very difficult. Because one of the things about boot camp is that, all of our programs are skills-based and very hands-on, technology, equipment, and all that. And so the difficulty of doing it seemed enormous and almost insurmountable. But surprisingly, we were able to do it, and we were able to do it pretty well. And I think we're very fortunate because then the fall semester we were on campus in all of our programs. And Newhouse, probably more than any of the other schools at Syracuse, had more in-person classes. And so the grad students were really lucky. We started a week early, and we almost made it to Thanksgiving, but we missed out by a week. But we went virtual the last week, and that wasn't a big deal. And now they're actually doing their final project or their finals, and we pushed the spring back until the end of January. And knock on wood, everything will be back to normal next summer, and we can have the old-fashioned boot camp. And I just heard from Operation Warp Speed that there's going to be 1 million vaccines by February. And President Obama has promised to do it on camera for all of us to see. So again, hopeful that we can kind of be back to normal. Okay, so there's some background. So we're one of 13 schools and colleges, from the law school to the business school, et cetera. We also have a lot of joint programs, and I'll talk about that as well. So we have like a program with VPA, we have a program with education, we have a program with the Maxwell School. And people can actually go to the law school and then also within the 3 years get a master's degree at Newhouse. I mentioned the ACJMC accreditation. We have more than 80 full-time and 50 adjunct. And, you know, a lot of people are scaling back right now. We just found out we got permission to search for 9 new faculty members, which is just really unbelievable. And some of those are for endowed chairs. Some of them are coming with tenure or whatever. The interesting thing of all those faculty members, I'd say, you know, 30 to 40% have PhDs. Most of them have masters. But we all have professional backgrounds. And that, I think, is one of the big strengths. We come from the professions. We go back to the professions. We have connections in the profession. And I think that's the key. And we're very, very good in classroom. I always say, and again, this is something we can talk more about, is that to me, the biggest strengths are our faculty. And I say that because I'm a member of the faculty, but that's our faculty and our alums. The alumni network is really, it's really amazing. All right, there you go. So Martha likes this because she likes to hear my story, my Newhouse history. And some of you have probably already heard it, but I like to do it anyways. So there's a school of journalism actually that was formed in 1934. And there was also a television, radio, film that was, I don't know what year that was, but they all came together. And Newhouse won in 1964. There's Newhouse one, I.M. Pei building, a very prominent architect. And it was dedicated by no less than the President of the United States at that time, Lyndon Baines Johnson. So that's a pretty big deal, right? But what was a bigger deal was the fact that this is where he announced the Gulf of Tonkin attack against our military. So I like to say that the Vietnam War began in Newhouse 1, and it's accurate. It is accurate. Okay. Newhouse 2, do you have a picture of Newhouse 2? So Martha, you see her? She's actually in the lobby of Newhouse 2 right now. Newhouse 2, no one kind of liked the way it looked because it was very practical. Rooms were practical, everything was practical. That's where my office is, but it's changed. But anyways, it was dedicated 10 years later by Bill Paley, William Paley, who was the president of CBS News. So that was a big deal because that was when we were going more into broadcast. And so Newhouse 2 is considered kind of like the broadcast building. It was brilliant to bring in the giant of broadcast. I wish they'd brought in Walter Cronkite, but I'll take Bill Paley. All right. So Newhouse 3, which was a long time after, and that was that first picture, it was dedicated by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts. So that was a really big deal. And everyone loves Newhouse 3. And when we built Newhouse 3, we also transformed some things, like there's a pathway now between 1 and 2. So you can actually go through pretty easily all 3 buildings without going outside, which you'll appreciate when you're here in February. So I say all that because then in 2014, that's Newhouse 1, the library. There you go. Go back there. Thank you. So that's the studios, the new Dick Clark studios. So that's Newhouse 2, but the studios were transformed, have transformed this because it really is beautiful. You can see in there, you got studios for broadcast journalism, you got studios for television, radio, film. There they are. We have the ACC network. We're the only school, by the way, that a part of the ACC that they actually do pregame and halftime stuff in our studios. And so we're the only students that actually do play-by-play type things for ACC network. So that's a big deal. But I like to say that the studios were dedicated by someone more famous than Lyndon Johnson, Bill Paley, and John Roberts combined. Carson, you know the answer to that question? I like to call on people. Come on, Carson. Who's the most famous person in America? Let me just say her first name starts with an O.
Oprah.
There you go. Oprah Winfrey dedicated the studios, and it was a big deal. Okay. And so we're pretty proud of all of our facilities and all of our equipment and state of the art. But truthfully, equipment is equipment, right? And you shouldn't get, the bells and whistles are great, but it's still, what's between the head. It's the ability to, to write, even in broadcast, the ability to write, and they have critical thinking skills. And that's really, really important. And that's what we emphasize over and over again. But you do have the bells and whistles, and not just for that, we have state-of-the-art stuff for advertising campaigns and PR campaigns. So the whole kit and caboodle, we're in really pretty good shape, I think. Okay, so I talked about faculty and alums. So that we have a career development center just for Newhouse. The university has their own, and you can use that, but we tend to stay in Newhouse. And so, when I just showed you the buildings and all that, and Newhouse 1, 2. Well, the Newhouses, they're fairly wealthy, right? And they are able to give a lot of money. Our students who graduate, they make good livings. Some of them become famous, like Bob Costas, Mike Tirico, Steve Croft, 60 Minutes. But most of them just make a living, can support their family. They're not able to give $17 million for new studios, right? But what they do is they give with their time. And they give with their energy. And so they come back constantly to school to speak and talk, and they mentor current students. So that's I like to say, is why the network's so important. And we have 5,000, actually it's over 6,000 now, who alumni who get put in our database. And these aren't just people, okay, you graduated, Michaela, you graduated, we're gonna put you in this database. No. It's like you call and say, I want to be put in this database and I want to be contacted by current students. So these are people who all volunteer to do that. And it's not that they're going to necessarily get you a job, but they're going to answer your questions and they're going to be there for you. And you can show them your resume, or they might say, hey, there's a job opening. And when you come here, if you come here, then Kelly Barnett, who runs our CDC, she'll give you her speech about, you get access to the database after you go through certain classes and you understand, how to behave and all that, you don't say yo in your email, that kind of thing. But you also say, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. That's one of the mantras there. And so this is a way for you to get to know people in the industry. And likewise, when they have openings, they send it to the CDC. I mean, sure, they'll probably put it on LinkedIn and Monster Jobs or whatever, but they're going to come to us first because they graduate and they know the type of students that we turn out. And that's why it's sometimes called the Newhouse Mafia, but I like to be politically correct and call it the Newhouse Network. But it's all over the country, and it depends on the program and all that. But there's probably not a media company out there that there's not a graduate. So there's the city of Syracuse. So I like to do the 3 bears scenario. It's like not too big, not too small, just right. So look, I certainly understand a lot of people want to be in a big city. They want to be in Boston or New York or Chicago. I'm from Chicago originally. And that's great. And you go to school and there's a lot of opportunities in big cities, but because they're big cities, they have very professional staff. And so if you're getting an internship there, it might be just doing coffee or doing errands or all that. And then there's some great schools in really little cities. Columbia, Missouri, great. Lawrence, Kansas, great. And you get to run the TV station there, professional station, all that. You get a lot of experience, but there's not a lot happening because it's a small town. And then we have Syracuse, just right. Okay, so we have TV stations, we have newspaper, we have news websites, we have advertising agencies, we have PR agencies. We actually have a film studio. American High is in Syracuse. And so the ability to do things meaningfully in a professional environment is very good. And also, we're not that far from New York. You know, you can get there in 4 hours driving. You take the train if you want to fly. If you want to take that chance that person next to you doesn't have COVID. But the whole thing, you know, you can make it. You can do there. And so a lot of our students actually in some of our graduate programs actually intern during like the spring semester down in New York for a couple of days. So a lot of things are possible. The other advantage is that, you know, we're a private school, and Martha, I always make Martha talk about the money. She'll talk about the expenses and all that we have. But we kind of make up with it a little bit in that the cost of living is extremely low in Syracuse, and especially for the housing. And there is some SU housing on North Campus that grad students can, but actually off campus is closer to Newhouse, is closer to the main campus, and you can get it pretty cheaply, as low as $350, $400 a month. Although you want to be careful whether or not utilities are included, because your heating bill might be a little high in the winter. Just saying. But that's also one of the advantages of having the 1-year wraparound programs, is that you only have to sign a lease for 1 year. And the summers, by the way, are really magnificent. It's like the winter garbage is made up for by first when you get here, but then even in the capstone. So. All right. So here are the 11 residential programs. And we kind of, maybe easier to describe it is to divide into kind of like 3 categories, like our journalism group, and that would be arts journalism and communication, broadcast and digital journalism, magazine news and digital journalism. And in the multimedia photography and design, there's news photography as well. And so the concentration there is on journalism. So it's kind of self-explanatory. And the MND program is if you like to write. So you're writing for magazines, both print, which, by the way, I have subscribed to about 30 now, because it's like during COVID, I needed something to do. So I kept bringing it in there. It's so cheap. So, and it's great writing. So you got print magazines, you got online magazines, same thing with newspapers. You got newspapers, many of which are going all online or online most of the time and only printed a couple times a week. And you got websites like BuzzFeed, it used to be Gawker, Axios. We have students, or former students, alumni, all of these places. So that's one way that we get to keep up quicker, because we have students who go there and then they tell us what's happening in the industry. So Magazine News and Digital does all that. And by the way, they do video as well. Video is now in all of the journalism aspects. Broadcast and digital journalism is more the traditional broadcast. Most of our students go to local TV stations. Some of them, though, Weijia Jiang, who is a CBS correspondent at the White House, who was, called Kung Flu to her face, and then the president basically said China to her, and she gave it back to him. She was born in China actually, and came for her graduate degree at BDJ. So we have those students. They eventually get to CNN and to the networks and the like, but there's still obviously, as you know, a lot of television news still out there. So they primarily do that. And then arts journalism and communication. So arts journalism was a niche, one of these niche programs. It's actually the Gold Ring Arts Journalism and Communication, because Lola Goldring endowed it basically with the idea, because she thought there was a lack of coverage of the arts, right? Especially as some of journalism kind of contracted, that she wanted more coverage of theater and dance and movies, popular culture, fine arts. So this program is geared for either people who have a background in the arts and want to be journalists, or who have a background in journalism and want to learn about the arts. So it can go either way. We added the communications part of it because we found that many of the students ended up working for arts organizations in kind of a PR capacity, although doing a lot of writing for their websites and well. So, and actually the communication is brand new this year. So it just became art journalism communication. So those are kind of, and of course, photojournalism is photojournalism. It's cameras and all that, although there is cinematography in that, but we have a lot of our photojournalists who do documentaries and the like. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect would be, I would consider to be kind of strategic communication slash slightly business. And when we talk about strategic communication, some programs, some schools have just a strategic communications or an integrated communication program, and that's it. And it kind of combines PR and advertising. We have combined a lot of things in those two fields, but we have very strong expertise in our faculty who still think that it needs to be separated, because there are things you need to learn if you're going into advertising that you don't need in PR and vice versa. So we have an advertising program, which is what it is. It's basically more like management. It's not a lot of creative because you only have a lot of time in a year, but there is a creative track if you're interested in going in that direction. And then we have public relations, which for like 3 years running was ranked the #1 public relations program in the country and still is pretty much ranked that way. And then we have this public diplomacy and global communications, which is kind of a combined public relations and international relations program. So half of the classes are with Newhouse, half the classes are with the Maxwell School of Citizenship. And that's one of the programs that isn't just a year, it's a year and a half. But you're a year here in Syracuse, and then that last semester you're in Washington, D.C. And this was a tough sell for the last couple of years because for some reason, I don't know what it was, but for some reason, public diplomacy was not like a big deal in this country. So there's a lot of job openings right now. And these students end up going, a lot of them work at the State Department or the United Nations or for NGOs, non-government organizations. There's a lot. And some, it's interesting because some of the students, when they graduate from this program, end up going into traditional PR. Some of them end up going in international relations, and some of them actually do public diplomacy. You have really 3 paths on that. And the last one in this grouping is what we would call new media management. And it's more for entrepreneurs, because you have half your class at Newhouse and then several of your classes, not quite half, but at the Whitman School of Management. And the idea is that all companies are media companies now. And how do we run these companies that are media companies in order to better understand? So, Foursquare, it's kind of obsolete now, but the graduates of this program kind of founded Foursquare. And they're at all sorts of Google, they're all sorts of different places. And then our third category is what I would call our entertainment category. And that starts out with television, radio, and film, which generally is our biggest program. And interesting about TRF is that it is very elective based, and that you can go deep in one field or you can go across a lot of different fields. So we have screenwriters in there, and we have producers in there, we have managers in there. We have all of those things. Now, they also do nonfiction. Documentary comes out of there as well. So in that way, they kind of be like BDJ. So there's some crossover there. But they also do fiction writing, comedy writing, full-length movies and television series. They do all of that, a little bit of everything. And out of that stem 2 of our other programs, Audio Arts, which is really kind of music business. And it's a joint program with Visual and Performing Arts. So that's one of our joint programs. And media and education. So the Newhouse half of Audio Arts is primarily in television, radio, film. And the Newhouse half of media and education, half of them are the School of Education, half are at TRF generally. And that's the idea of bringing technology into the classroom. And again, we also have multimedia photography and design because there's art photography as well. And that is a lot of people who end up going in the advertising field. And there's also design, which is graphic design. And so you have that ability, and graphic design can also be, news design or artistic design. So you can go in all of those areas. So that covers it. But now we also have this. So what's the sports media and communication? So, one of the things that makes Newhouse famous is this long line of sports broadcasters. I mentioned Costas and Mike Tirico, Marv Albert. So who runs the sports media communication is Olivia Stomsky, and she's a professor of practice, but she's also a producer at Fox and ESPN. And in fact, she's the hardest working person I know because she teaches at Newhouse all week. And then she spends the weekends, usually on the West Coast, being the executive producer of football, baseball, college, Little League World Series, college games, and all the like. So she's right there. She produces the stuff for the ACC network, and she runs our sports media communication program. And right now, there's three ways you can do that. You can do it through broadcast and digital journalism. You can do it through television, radio, and film. And you can do it through magazine, news, and digital journalism. So what you do is your electives become sports classes. Your internships become sports internships. So that's how we weave it. We're also in the process of working with public relations because we have a lot of people who go to PR who want to be sports information directors. And so that's a possibility. But we, one of our new hires PRs is a man named Brad Horn, who used to be the chief spokesperson for the Baseball Hall of Fame. So we have these connections everywhere to do. Basically, I don't think you couldn't stump me on like a media job that we couldn't help you with here. I imagine there are some out there, but if you want to try to stump me, go ahead and do that. But that's kind of the overview of our courses. And we'll go through the application process because it's probably pretty good that you figure out what you want to do before you apply. But we have had people apply for more than one program, and that's not a problem. Eventually, you're going to have to make up your mind. But at this point, I think if you go also on the website, there's going to be the curriculum of all these programs, including the sports media communication. I'll tell you what you're going to have to take. And I think those courses and what they encompass in their descriptions, I think will go a long way to helping you figure out which direction you want to go. I know many of you, because I've talked to some of you before, or I've corresponded with some of you, you pretty much already know which way you want to go. And that's great. I mean, that's the beauty of, I think, a master's degree, is that, you spend your undergraduate, learning how to think, learning how to write, figuring out what you want to do. And now the whole reason that we make this so intense is and it is intense, that we make it so intense is because it's so skills based. It is, you barely have time to lift up your head because you're working constantly. So next year, again, knock on wood that we're in residence for the whole thing, the start will be July 6th. So you can celebrate the 4th of July and then get ready. All right. Everyone takes at least 2 courses during boot camp. Sometimes there's a third colloquial course, whatever. And the SU calendar, they have a 5-year calendar you can go through and you can figure out exactly what it would be. And like I said, almost all are in one calendar year. The difference would be, again, public diplomacy and global communications. Broadcast and digital journalism also is 1 year, but they have a capstone in Syracuse where they put on a newscast 4 days a week for the first 6 weeks of the summer. But then the second 6 weeks, they actually go to Washington, D.C. And even the one, or if they're in the sports, they're going to go and they might end up covering an NFL camp, pregame or preseason camp, or again, Little League World Series, because Professor Stomsky's got a lot of connections. So they'll cover there, they'll work in those places as well. The other, just so you know, you could do the multimedia photography and design, the photography program, although most of the time it takes 1.5 years because they like to really emphasize expertise in there. And they think that before you do your final project, they want to spread it out a little bit. So that one generally takes 1.5 years. Many of the programs end with a project at the end, like MND put together their own magazine, create their own magazine. Advertising does a campaign. They have a client or 2 clients from New York City that they have a problem with, and then they actually present in New York to those clients. PR, they finish with an internship. So that internship might go beyond July 1st and now hopefully turn into a job. But you would, most of those internships are away from Syracuse, sometimes in another country. So you would leave there and then you'd still stick on. So that and the New Media Management also has clients and create brand new industries and new companies to figure out how to solve problems. Or you solve a problem for an alum who's just graduated and has this problem, could use like about 15 new people, new ideas on how that works. All right, so it's very important that you know that when you apply, and get to the specifics of the application process, that we take a holistic view of your application. All right. Oh, well, first we're going to talk about who's in our program. All right. So this is for the past year. It's down a little, 162. We normally get about 200. You can kind of know why it was down to 162 though, because COVID, right? But we still, this group is probably, I'll tell you what we usually get, and then you'll see that, we actually end up, okay. Advertising, we want 17 or 18. So we were right there. Arts journalism is usually 12 to 15. So we were right there. Audio arts is also 12 to 15. BDJ, we try to max out at 32 because there's 16 in each set. There's 2 sections. So we were right there. M&O, we usually are somewhere between 25 and 30. So we were a little under there. M&E, that program, because it's not, they don't get a certificate from the Department of Education, we have fewer students in there because that master doesn't count if they want to teach. So that's why that's the MPD is about where it is. New media management is usually in the mid-20s. And one of the reasons why it is low is because that program, more than any other program, gets international students, particularly students from Asia, and they couldn't come. So we have a lot from that program who deferred for a year. PD, public diplomacy, well, you know why that's done. And that's why it's going to be like an 80 next year. PR, usually PR is about where it used to be, 15, 16, but we had such a demand for that we went up to 30 by forming 2 sections. So we can actually accommodate one class at 15 to 18 or 2 classes at 28 to 30. So we're going to see. And it also has, not as many as New Media Management, but it has a decent number of international students as well. And TRF usually gets about 35, but we've had as many as like 45 in there. And remember, I told you how elective based it is. So that can, that kind of is an open-ended program. As long as you're qualified, we can pretty much get you in there because we can move things around and classes around. Okay, wait, I got a question, good. How many students does media and education usually accept into their program? So a lot depends on the year, but basically they're going to accept any. They would love to have 10 to 15 students in that program. The other thing about media and education is they have a certificate of advanced studies that a lot of teachers want to get. So they're in the process of like having kind of like 2 tracks, the actually degree track and the certificate. But if they could get 10 to 15, that would be ideal for them. All right, and again, this year. I didn't know Martha was going to do this because she's like throwing me off because what do you mean 13% international? So normally it would be what, Martha, about
30.
30. Yeah. So normally it'd be 30. And this is just from this year then. And normally the number of countries would be about double that because people come from really, really interesting places. And unfortunately, so a lot of those students this year, they've had to be remote. Because even if they wanted to be here, they couldn't, either they couldn't get in because they could get visas or they couldn't get permission. So again, but if you then subtract the international students, so we have 45% of our US are members of underrepresented groups. And we think that, and that's been a consistent thing. And I think that's, to me, that's one of the great things about the Newhouse School is that we have people from different cultures, different ethnicities and all the rest. How do you join the summer program? You join the summer program by applying to the program because the summer is the first program that starts. All right, and then there's a question about scholarship. Martha's going to talk more about the specifics about finances in a second because she knows I want to drink my lemonade. All right, the average age So I always like to do the median mode, and mean. So the mean is 24. I would say that a plurality of students, particularly this year, um, because there were no jobs, come directly out of undergraduate. Okay, but a majority come out. So you can't have 72% and 90%.
They're not percent, they're counts.
Oh, okay. That messed me up.
Sorry.
Now that's more males than we've had in a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, so a plurality are you're out just graduated or out 1 or 2 years. That would be the majority. A plurality are come straight from undergrad. But we've had students and still have students in their 40s, 50s, even 60s. So, people want to be career changers, or they've always wanted to be, television producer. And so they have this year or whatever, they're going to come. So when I talked about holistic, first of all, GREs are optional. So you don't have to do a GRE. And we did that even before the whole COVID thing happened. So grades do become more important, but we understand, because it's a holistic, that some of you, when you went to undergraduate, were sure that you're going to be pre-med. And so you took biology, chemistry, and organic chemistry. And so no matter how great you did for the rest of your career, you'll be lucky to get a 3.0 average, because they kind of those grades brought you down a little bit. So we're kind of we see improvement if you're looking at communications classes or arts and science, things that we think will help you. So the holistic, so we're looking at your 3 layers of rec, and we're looking beyond your transcript. And your essay is very important while you want to be there. All right, so you're going to take over here?
Did you want to answer any of these questions before I do?
All right, well, let me look.
Let me see. There was one about the sports communication, the sports track. I would say we usually have 30 to 40 total
I think we have
students in the sports
36
track.
this year. They vary depending on their program. Usually BDJ has the most, and then TRF and M&D can fluctuate on there. And in PR, it's not official in PR, but we let people do it by petition. We would have maybe 1 or 2 a year.
Right. The earliest you can apply is anytime. You can apply now. I'll get into when we start to review, so I'll get into more detail then.
So Sheila says, should you go into a career first, then go for a master's? All depends. I mean, I got my master's in journalism straight out of college. It kind of depends what's going on. If you have a job in the field you want to be in, and it's offered to you, definitely take it, because you're going to learn on the job, and then you could always go back later. But if the question is, do I take any job or go to master? A lot depends on what you want to do, and there's no perfect or right path. It's what's right for you. So honestly, we've had students who've applied to us and have accepted to us, and then all of a sudden they get a good job and they don't know, what should I do? But we'll take the job and defer for a year. Okay. And I mean, there's me, but when I became a journalist, I also had applied to law school, and I got this great journalism job, and I ended up deferring like 4 years. And I said, you know what, I don't want to go to law school. So I want to stay as a journalist. So, it's what's best for you and what's good for you. There's not necessarily any right or wrong answer, right? You can apply right now. Broadcast journalism program, probably accept in the 60s to get to our 32. And the Newman, do we get to study about, yes. Newman management program is like content strategy is one of the main building blocks of that program.
Okay, so we'll let Dean Kaplan take a drink, take a break.
Cheers.
Applications and admissions. So how do you apply? We have an online application. You are able to upload your personal statement, your resume, and a transcript. We do not need an official transcript at the time you apply. For admissions purposes, a copy will suffice. So a PDF of all of your courses and grades will be sufficient. Your recommenders, you just add them to the online application, add their names, add their email addresses, and they should receive an email with a link to fill out a form and upload their letters. Our application fee is the low price of $45. If you are an international student in a non-English speaking country, then we do require English language test scores. So we're accepting the TOEFL or the IELTS. And then after you submit your application, we send you a link to our online video interview. That is meant to allow us to get to know you a little bit better. So it is 4 to 6 questions asked actually by your program director, and then you respond in a video format. So there's nothing to prepare for ahead of time, and it's not meant to intimidate you in any way, but it is sort of meant to simulate an actual interview, since it's a little too difficult to actually conduct phone or Skype interviews with all of you. So it assesses maybe your understanding of the program, and also lets you show us your personality a little bit. And our application deadline is January 15th. As Dean Kaplan has sort of said already, we take a very holistic approach to the application review. We do not require GREs anymore. We have found that our online interview is a much more useful tool in assisting us in this holistic review. We don't have a minimum GPA. I get asked that question very frequently, and we don't. You saw our average. The average ranges from 3.2 to 3.5, depending on the year. And again, we are looking at everything in your application. So often there are other things in your application if you have a lower GPA, but there's other things that are strong. And so, we decide that, yes, you do have the potential to succeed in the program. We don't have any prerequisites for our programs. I know sometimes folks are confused and think, oh, I didn't study communications. I don't have communications experience. How can I go and get a master's? Well, these are professional skills-based programs. They're meant to teach you the skills you need to enter the communications industry. So you don't need to have studied it. However, we have folks who maybe do have some experience. Maybe it was more general, maybe it was in a different area. So we welcome those students as well. Actually, these programs are well suited for students in either camp. Your recommenders can be academic or professional. We don't have a specific number that have to be one or the other. It is really up to you who you think can best assess your skills and abilities. And the personal statement is very important to us. Anytime an applicant asks me, oh, what's the most important thing? I really tell them the personal statement. It's something you should take the time to write. Show us your personality, show us your writing skills, and most importantly, show us your passion for the field. Why do you want to do this program? We want to know. It's really key that we have people in the program who are passionate about pursuing it. Our timeline, we will begin review in mid to late January. So for those of you who submitted early, we will start reviewing at that time and then start notifying you as soon as we can. We send these applications out to the faculty program directors to review, and then depending on their schedule, they'll get it back to us, and then Dean Kaplan is the one who does the second and final review. So as long as everyone's in agreement, our office will send you an email and let you know the decision. And we also try to include whatever merit aid award that we're going to offer in that admission notice. So that could be a scholarship. The instructional associate positions, we sort of decide those a little later, but I'm going to talk about that in the next section. We are planning at this point, every spring we do host preview sessions. Last year, we ended up doing a virtual preview because we had to cancel our in-person events at the last minute. So depending on what's going on, we will either do in-person or virtual. So we'll keep you posted on those. If you are admitted, you will have until April 15th to accept our offer. All right, the fun stuff. I'm expecting probably a lot of questions here. So how much is this degree going to cost you? Graduate school is expensive. It is nothing we're going to sugarcoat. I mean, it's expensive. It's a serious consideration, and it's a serious financial undertaking. Syracuse University, while we are expensive, when you do compare us to other institutions, we are at the same or cheaper than a lot of other communications programs. We do have the advantage of being year-long for the most part. So programs in which you're committing to 2 years are just going to be more expensive than a one-year program. So we have that. The graduate students pay per credit. So most of our courses are 3 credits. So for each credit, the current rate is $1,683. That rate will go up. I don't know the exact amount yet. We hope to find that out next March, and we will post it on the website. We do lock in the tuition for the one full 12 months. The structure at Syracuse is that the tuition goes up every May. So typically, in the past, our students would enroll and have one tuition rate for summer, fall, and spring, and then they'd pay a higher rate to finish their program in the summer. So we didn't like that, and we worked with our bursar to actually lock in the rate so that you can actually finish your program still paying that one rate. For most of our programs, I mean, an average number of credits is 36. So that's why I included that total tuition rate there. That kind of gives you a good idea of what to expect. In addition to tuition, we do have one-time program technology fees. So rather than having a course fee for each course, so 100 here, 50 there, 25 here, we decided to have just a one-time fee. This is applied on the fall tuition bill. So we have a group of programs where it's 600, and then another group of programs for which it's 1,155. So you can kind of tell the programs that are using more of the equipment, relying more heavily on facilities, that's a higher fee. And just a note that if you are in one of these programs that is joint with another school or college, it's possible that that other school or college would charge a fee as well. Other expenses. So these are, again, current rates, the current health fee, the current activity fee, the current rate for health insurance. Students are required to have health insurance. Now, if you have your own health insurance, if you're still on your parents' health insurance, you can just fill out a form and submit to opt out of the universities. But the university does offer this insurance to all students. If you need to pay for parking, that's just an average. Now, again, you could pay as little as $125 if you need to drive to campus and park and get to school. You could park it a lot. It's about a half mile away, and you can either take the walk or there's a shuttle bus that goes through there every 10 minutes. Or if you need to drive and park at the parking garage that's 2 blocks away, then you're looking at close to $1,000. So it's a far range. But as Dean Kaplan said, there are a lot of housing options that are very close by, and you can ride your bike, you can walk, you can get on the bus. Books and supplies is an extremely variable cost. It really just depends on, the courses you take, and faculty are constantly changing what's required. Maybe it's not a textbook, maybe it's something else that can be supplied, or something else that you can get somewhere, something that can be shared, different resources. So that's extremely variable. I'm kind of throwing it out there just as something to consider, but again, it could be very different. To go on about the housing a little bit more, if you do need campus housing, there is limited housing available for graduate students on an area called South Campus. This is about a mile away, and it's apartment style. So most of the places are 2-bedroom, and it's just kind of a bunch of smaller buildings. So it's a whole area that has housing. A lot of undergraduates live out there now, but there are graduate students and some families, and they're furnished apartments. It's a nice spot, but it's a little bit far away. I mean, you do have to take the bus for the most part if you're going to live out there. So most of our students do opt to search for off-campus housing. And there are so many options. There are the quote unquote luxury apartment complexes that you may have noticed, sprouting up around college campuses all over. These are going to include, all the amenities. So it's going to have a workout room. It's going to have a movie theater room. It's going to have, the gym. It's going to have, laundry in the apartment. It's going to have all your cable, your Wi-Fi, et cetera, included. And it's also going to have a high sticker price of, $1,200 a month or whatever for one bedroom that you share, in an apartment with 3 other people, and everyone's paying, that rate per bedroom. But then there are also a lot of other places close to campus that are, converted school buildings, converted houses into apartments, all these different choices. And some of them are quite nice, and you can share it with 1 or 2 other people, or maybe you can find a studio apartment and, only have to walk, 5 blocks to Newhouse, ride your bike. So there's just a lot of different options. Don't be scared off. The cost of living in Syracuse is low, particularly when you're comparing it to, a larger city. So we have that advantage as well. And again, if you're in one of the 12-month programs, it's just a 1-year lease. Nice and easy. So we do have an actual cost breakdown on our website. We have basically a spreadsheet for each program. It's something that I work on once a year and put on the website. So if you want to know specifically for a program what you're looking at expenses wise, you can go on there and see, what are the summer, what do I have to pay for the summer? What am I going to pay for the fall, etc. So it's kind of all broken down with both the direct expenses, things like tuition and fees, and then also the indirect expenses with, again, like the housing estimates and the parking. Syracuse University also has an off-campus housing finder tool on their website. These are properties that have actually been vetted by the university. So no sketchy landlords are going to be included in that list. And it's a great way to, find the housing, find out how far away it is from campus. And if you need to find a roommate, you can use it for that as well. All right, the awards. So please, 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 on the application, just say, yes, I'd like to be considered for scholarships. Yes, I'd like to be considered for instructional associate positions. We cannot offer you anything if you don't say yes. There's nothing else you need to put on the application except yes. With that being said, we do consider, we'll automatically consider you at that point for the awards that we offer. And we have Dean scholarships. These range. This could be as low as $5,000 and could go up to about $25,000. We have Dean's multicultural scholarships. Those are typically $12,500. It actually started from a very generous donor, who started the scholarship program, and we decided to continue it since we find it a very useful. It's important to us. And we have the Newhouse Foundation Fellowship for Minorities. This is a very unique program. It's something that Newhouse has been doing for probably 25 years and maybe actually longer than that. But for 2 students each year are selected specifically for our magazine news and digital program to be these fellows. And they study at Newhouse for a year and a half. And the reason their program is extended is because they're actually working as interns through the local digital news paper and site in Syracuse. So they gain a lot of really valuable experience writing and reporting while they're also doing their coursework at Newhouse. And it is a pretty competitive process. We have students apply and the finalists are chosen and actually interviewed in Syracuse. So depending on, not sure if that'll be in person or not, as far as the interviews go, usually it's a full weekend in Syracuse. So we'll see how that goes.
I think it was the last in-person thing we did last year.
I think it was too. I think it was too. Finally, we have instructional associate positions. I'll do my best to explain these and try to be as clear as possible. I know it gets a little confusing. These are like TAs. These students are selected to assist professors in classes or labs, and they work for 10 to 20 hours a week. This is only during the fall and spring. So you would work 10 to 20 hours a week, assisting in a lab, in a class, receiving hourly pay for the work that you do. So the current rate is $19 an hour. So you're receiving $19 an hour for that work. But in addition to that, you're also receiving a partial tuition scholarship. So if you were to receive an instructional associate position for the academic year for fall and spring, you would receive 15 credits of tuition scholarship, along with receiving these weekly paychecks for the work that you're doing. And so this could be assisting an undergraduate communication survey class, an undergraduate graphics class, assisting with labs. And we have a variety of positions. And so if you do have any special skills, it's great to highlight those, whether it's graphic design, whether it's working with certain equipment, anything, we do look at the resumes, of course, when we're considering for these, but anything you want to highlight, you can do so on the application. That process is a little more complicated because we have other faculty who need to make those selections. So as program directors are reviewing, they will sometimes put a little note like, oh, I think this person would be good for this particular IA position. And so when we go through, we actually send lists to these other faculty, like, here are the people we think you should consider for these positions. So then they'd go back through and, check your resume or read your statement to determine who they should select. So it's a little more complicated, and we may not have those decisions until mid-March or so. In addition, we have a bunch of jobs at Newhouse. So after students arrive, we advertise during the summer for the fall semester a number of jobs. These could be graduate assistant positions. I have one in my office. There are a few other offices that have them. It could be working in our equipment distribution area. It could be working with a professor in our center for what's Sean Brannigan's center?
Oh, you're asking me hard questions.
I know, I'm sorry. He runs the Entrepreneurship Center.
Exactly.
So assisting him, it could, I mean, there are so many jobs. If you want to work in Newhouse, you can find a job. And what's great is you make a connection with a faculty or staff member. You are gaining some relevant experience, and it's right in Newhouse. So it's just easy to get those hours in without, working it around your class schedule. So that's great. We're actually advertising right now for the positions we'll have available in the spring to the current students. As far as need-based aid goes, at the graduate level, the aid is handled a little differently. You're not going to get the financial aid package like you get for undergrad. The schools and colleges handle the merit aid awards, and then the Office of Financial Aid at Syracuse, they basically facilitate the student loan process. So if you need additional funds to, to pay for this graduate education that we just talked about being so expensive, we highly recommend that if you are a U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident, to file your FAFSA form. And because we start in the summer, it actually requires the previous year's FAFSA. So you would want to fill out both the 2020-21 and the 2021-22 FAFSA, so that you'd have it for both summer of 21 and then also for the following year, for the academic year of 21 to 22. Those are really kind of the two sources of aid. It's the merit awards through Newhouse and the student loans through the Office of Financial Aid. All graduate students are automatically considered independent. So once you switch that FAFSA over from undergrad to grad, it's just, your parents don't have to submit anything. There are also Graduate Plus loans that you can apply for as well if you need additional funding. Oh yeah, I did have a slide about it. So the Stafford loan funds, I put those there because, again, as independents, like, that's pretty much the amount. It doesn't really change as far as the Stafford loan amounts. And the Graduate Plus loans, it really helps to fill that gap. And it does require a credit check, but what I've seen for most of our students is, really varying amounts depending on what they need. I'd say most of our students are really, combining their resources, whether it's personal savings, merit awards, loans. We also have a list of external funding sources that we've kind of compiled that, may apply specifically to the communications or the journalism fields. And we've posted those on our website. We actually just went through and updated it to the best of our ability just a few weeks ago. So you could check that out as well. So I think that is everything in the presentation. So we are going to try to get to all your questions. I know